Today, our next seminar is on student life in Japan, and we are very fortunate to be joined by three wonderful alumni who are members of Japanese universities that have been studying over the past few years. And I would like to invite them to the stage one by one to give a short presentation about their insights and their experiences. And after that, we'll open up the floor where you have an opportunity to ask these people any questions you have about studying in Japan. So we would like to start with Josephine Austin, who is currently Program Officer at the Japan Foundation. And she is an alumni member of Kansai University, which is situated in the wonderful city of Osaka. So please, Josie.
Hello. Right, I've actually done this talk a couple of other times, and normally everyone always talks about Tokyo, and so I'm here to say how amazing Kansai is and how you shouldn't always just consider Tokyo. But I found out everyone on the panel today has actually lived in Kansai, so this is going to be a slightly West Japan special. But anyway, we'll go on. So about me, I did the International Baccalaureate at my sixth form, so I did a tiny bit of Japanese at school. I thought I was amazing, so then on for my gap year, I went to live in Japan for 6 months, teaching Japanese as an assistant language teacher, and then I realised that actually, after 2 years studying at school, my Japanese was rubbish, and I couldn't actually understand anything around me. But everyone was so nice to me when I lived there as a volunteer that I came back to London to study at SOAS, so I changed my degree. I was planning to do history, but I changed it to history and Japanese because everyone in Japan was so lovely. Then, the great thing about studying Japanese at university in the UK is you have to go to Japan for a year. Woohoo! So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I actually was in Japan in 2004, so it's 10 years ago. So my perspective might be slightly different from these other two lovely speakers because I've been back and working and using my Japanese for quite a few years, but hopefully that's nice so you can see the different perspectives. After university, I also did the JET program, so I worked as a coordinator for international relations in Nara, also Kansai, yay! And since I've been back in the UK, I worked for Pokemon, which is why I have the amazing photo of me and Pikachu-chan. And I also worked for the Nikkei, which is the largest business newspaper in the world, and that was in London as well. And I work for the Japan Foundation, so at the moment I'm promoting Japanese language education in the UK. But the important part, so when you're choosing which university do you want to go to in Japan, most of my friends that had never been to Japan before seem to gravitate towards Tokyo. So if you've never been to Japan, I assume lots of you think, yes, Tokyo, let's go and look at those. I personally think it's really good to look at other places as well, because everyone I know that studied in Kyushu or up in Hokkaido or studying all around Japan really enjoys it. But obviously, as we three will tell you, Kansai is the very best place. So I chose to go study near Osaka. So Kansai University is located in Suitashi, which is just outside Osaka. When you're looking to choose your university, other things to look out for is whether it's a city university or a campus university. Kansai University had a little bit of both, but it was mainly a big campus just outside of Osaka. Also look at the number of ryugakusei. Where I was studying, there were 40,000 students, and ryugakusei is the foreign exchange student numbers. There were 25 of us for foreign exchange students, so we were in a slight minority, which made it really easy for us to make friends. So if anyone else wanted to study English, then they'd obviously want to make friends with us. Although in some ways it was a bit scary because you'd join a club and you would always be the only non-Japanese person. But that's actually a really nice way to make you have to study Japanese, because most of my Japanese friends would be like, yes, let's study English together. Then 3 sentences, they'd be like, ja, Nihongo de hanashite ii desu ka? Like, can we just go into Japanese now? So if you want to make friends and really study Japanese, try and choose a university without too many other foreign exchange students. So this is what Kansai University looks like. It's a massive campus. The picture on the bottom left is our dormitory, looking out from our dorm. And then, yeah, it doesn't even show how big it is here. It was if you jogged round it, it would probably take me about 20 minutes to jog round, so it was quite large. Especially because I came from SOAS, which is just a couple of buildings, so I was very shocked. Tips for making the most of your life in Japan. Money-wise, while I was in Japan as a student, I taught English as a part-time job, And for someone that is used to getting paid sort of £6 or £7 in London, it was really nice to be getting paid more like at least 15, but often it was more like £30 an hour to teach English. So if you're thinking, how can I afford to live in Japan? Actually, I found that it was much cheaper for me to live in Japan. The university dormitories were incredibly cheap, especially compared to London, and then I could make much more money. So I found it was a really good time to save for my last years in England. I managed to save loads of money. The other tip is remember to study. You would not believe how many, especially if you're just going for 1 year, how many people forget that actually when you come back to the UK, there will be tests and you might actually have to speak Japanese. If you're going to Japanese to study, the way that my Japanese friends work is they studied incredibly hard to get into university, but once they're in university, they would go to the lessons to make sure they get the credit for being in the lesson, but then some of them would sleep in class, or they would, they weren't the most focused, especially in the early years of their degrees. And so as a foreign exchange student, if you really want to do well, you actually do need to do some study as well. So please don't forget that, otherwise you'll fail when you get back to the UK. I think this is actually changing. It seems like now my friends that once they got into their last years of school, they were really studying hard, but particularly first and second year students in Japan seemed that they weren't studying that hard. And then the last year, they were all searching for jobs rather than studying. So it's a very different atmosphere to UK universities. Then, food-wise, while you're in Japan, remember to eat everything. I thought I had a good idea of what kind of Japanese food was, but to be honest, especially the first 2 months I was in Japan, I think I had something I'd never heard of before every single day. This is mostly just from travel. The last time I went to Japan, a year ago when I went to Japan, this is just one trip and I just ate everything. Oh, sorry, I'm going to get excited. So just remember, it's not all sushi and tempura. If you're vegan, you may have some problems. It's not the easiest country in the world to be vegan, but it's possible to be vegetarian, especially if you don't notice when things have dashi. If anyone's vegetarian, sorry, I'll get too moving. If anyone's vegetarian, then be careful of dashi because they do have lots of the bonito flakes in lots of things, so you might think, oh, this looks like vegetarian okonomiyaki, but actually it's got some fish in there, so be careful of that. But otherwise, the food is the best part, so definitely eat. And when you travel as well, I'll tell you about the traveling things, whenever you go around Japan, there's different food everywhere you travel, which we don't seem to have the same regional ideas of food here. So ask other students, if I'm going to go to Hokkaido, what shall I eat? Or if I go to Kyushu, which ramen should I eat? And get them to tell you those things as well, because it's one thing, it's a really good way to get chatting with other students because they love to tell you their knowledge about different places in Japan. And yeah, traveling tips. Traveling in Japan can be expensive, but if you're a student, you can do things like there's night buses, so you don't have to take the Shinkansen. You can save a day's hotel and save lots of money on the traveling by bus. You can hitchhike. I did lots of hitchhiking with my friends, but always in twos. Japanese people don't actually really know what hitchhiking is, so we'd stick our thumb out, and then people would stop and be like, why are you putting your thumb out? And then if you speak Japanese, then it's nice because you can say, actually, I want to go to this place, and then they'll be like, oh, we'll take you some of the way, and most people were really nice. We had to be careful and try and find out where people were actually going, because we found some people actually went out of their way and wanted to drive us the whole way that we wanted to go, and we didn't want to kind of be a burden on them, so we'd just say, where are you going? Okay, we'll go that far with you, rather than saying, take us the whole way. So yeah, but travel in Japan is amazingly nice. I'm sure you guys have stories as well of meeting random Japanese people that have just fed you or just been nice to you or just taken you in to have some breakfast or whatever. Japan is very good for that kind of thing. Then ways to make friends. My best way for making friends while I was a student was the dormitory that I lived in. There were some hideous things for living in dormitories, such as we had rules that I wouldn't be used to in the UK. So I definitely would never be able to take a man into the female side of the dorm, let alone into my room. So if you're used to your freedom, you might not like that side of it. But the dormitories were an amazing place to live. There's also English clubs. So if you go, especially if you end up in a university that doesn't have very many foreign students, it's really good to join English clubs or English classes with the Japanese students because, as I said before, quite often they give up speaking English after a few minutes and then you can really get some good Japanese speaking time in. Also in Japan, they have two different kind of clubs. One of them, the actual clubs, are actually very hardcore. So say you want to join an actual club, like a hiking club, then every weekend you'll be going hiking. Or if you do karate club, every single night you'll be practicing karate. So it's a good way to become a master of whatever you're looking into. The other opportunity that I personally really like is called circles. So if you join a circle, it's a lot more relaxed, and it might just be 1 or 2 nights a week. And they do a lot more of the things like nomikai, where you go drinking with the other circle friends. And that's a more relaxed way to try the extracurricular activities, but without the stress of being really hardcore in a club. Also, local activities. You can see all my friends and I are dressed up to join a matsuri. In the top one, we had to carry one of the mikoshi shrines around with us. And then we did mochizuki, like making mochi with all the old people. They have loads of old ladies that come out and they all pound rice until it becomes mochi. So there's loads of activities like that. So find out if you have a ryugakusei center, like a foreign exchange center in your university, and see if they have local events going on, because people are always really welcoming to let the foreign exchange students get involved. And then lastly, nomikai. So in Japan, I don't know how many of you can speak Japanese, but nomimas is to drink, and they have something called nomunication, which takes nomimas and to drink and communication, so it becomes drinking and communicating well. And nomikai is basically parties where you drink together. Even if you don't drink, they're really worth going to, because it's when people really let their hair down and get involved, and that's how you can make really good friends. Although oh, sorry, I should have pressed that quicker. They do sometimes, especially if first-year students are involved, they don't always last particularly long, because they seem to drink very quickly and then it's over. My culture shock-wise for studying in Japan, the main one was the rules and the meetings in my dormitory. We had at least once a month we would have a meeting with everybody in the dormitory, and everyone had to say their opinions and they would decide the rules. And it was slightly boring, to be completely honest, but you had to be there and had to show your face, otherwise they'd be really sad that you weren't getting involved. Also the senpai-kohai relation, so anyone that's higher up, so say you're a 4th year, then those people had to be nice to the first years, and first years just have to say shitsurei shimasu to everyone as they go through. This was really strong in the dormitory. I didn't notice it as much in the university, but when you're living together, they were very strong on the relationships between the higher up students and the lower students. It's quite strange being a foreign exchange student, because you're kind of outside of this whole circle, and so people didn't always know how to react to me as a foreign person, because they'd generally just be like middling polite. They wouldn't be rude as they would to a basically, you can probably hear in the morning, if someone says "Ohayou gozaimasu," that means they're probably lower down. If they're like "Us," they're probably a 4th year. So I'm somewhere in the middle, so they might just say "Ohayou." So you can get the idea. So that was a little bit confusing. Then study versus free time. Coming from a university in London, I was used to studying incredibly hard. And it was a bit of a shock to find how much free time I had. And I think if I had just had a giggle the whole time, I probably would have failed by the time I got back to London. So you have to take it onto yourself a bit more to actually study hard. Then drinking times in the dormitories, you probably get the right idea. Waking hours, this I found really strange. I used to, I'd go to bed sort of 11:30 or 12, and then wake up about 2 a.m. because for some reason all my Japanese friends would collate in the shokudo, in the dining room, at about 2, and then they'd all be chatting and having a laugh, and that was the best time for me to learn Japanese, because they were the most open. So I personally would do a lot of middle of the night chatting and then go back to bed again and then have to be up for early morning classes. So just be aware that you might want to do some nocturnal chatting as well. It doesn't have to involve drink. For me, it was quite often just get up and go and chat when everyone else was already a bit tipsy, and then you can have a nice chat. And then there's things like the bath time. So our dormitory had a large bath for the girls and then a large bath for the boys. And so some of the best gossip and times to learn Japanese was actually during the bath time. So you go and sit in the bath and have a chat for ages with all the girls, and it was really nice. So as coming from a European country, that might be a bit of a shock to start with, but it is a really nice way to live. Then lastly, I just wanted to say, my friends from university, I've now lived in Japan as a student and as a volunteer and working, but my university friends are the ones that have stayed with me the whole time. So these are a few of my friends from back in 2004, and then 8 years later, I saw them all again when I went back to Japan, and then even last year, they all came and joined me for my wedding. So, you know, even 10 years later, you will make some amazing friends. So do go to Japan. It's the best thing you can ever do. But yeah, you will love it. That's it. Was I quick?
So thank you very much, Josie. We have our next speaker, Lawson, who's currently a student at Oxford University, and he studied at Kobe University in the west of Honshu. So just give us a minute, we'll set up the presentation.
Sorry, I was trying to be quick so we didn't overrun. I'm sorry if it was too much raw.
So much pressure now.
Ah, go for it.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah.
Okay, please, Lawson, thank you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Lawson Lancaster, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience in Japan last year when I was at Kobe University. Okay. So, just introduction. So, my name is Lawson Lancaster. I'm from Ealing in West London, and I'm actually a fifth year at Oxford University because the old Japanese course was 4 years and an optional year abroad, which everybody takes. So, now I'm a fifth year, and I do Japanology, study of Japan. I've studied abroad in Japan 2 times. So one time in the summertime of my first year for 4 months at Kansei Gakuin University in Hyogo Prefecture. And then in my 4th year, I went back to Hyogo Prefecture to go to Kobe University. I love Hyogo Prefecture. And I started studying GCSE Japanese in year 10. And now I'm almost 23, so that's 9 years I've been studying Japanese. So I'm in my final year, and I'm writing my dissertation and applying for jobs and doing this presentation. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about mainly 4 things. So why Japan? Why did I like Japan? Why is Japan such an amazing country? And why should you all go? And also my university life in Japan. So how is it different to English university? What are the main things you'll realize straight away? My life outside of university in Japan. I didn't just study. I did have lots of fun as well. And then finally looking back on my time in Japan and what I got out of it and why I would recommend Japan as an amazing place to go to and why you should all take a year abroad if you can. Okay, so why Japan? So as I said, I studied Japanese in high school because my French teacher was also fluent in Japanese. I don't know why. And I went to an after-school club, and I got interested in Japan, and I chose Japanese GCSE. And then from then onwards, bam, I just started loving Japan. So I wanted to study it at university. So I got into university doing Japanese studies, and as most courses in England, you have a year abroad. So that's how I got to Japan. And I also like challenges, so the idea of living in Japan seemed like a really good thing to do, and maybe I could improve myself as a person, so that was one of the other reasons. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit about university life in Japan. So last year, when I was in Kobe University, I was a MEC scholarship student, so I had a scholarship from the Japanese government to study in Japan. And I was attached to 3 faculties, so I was in literature, intercultural communication, and developmental studies. I never went there, I didn't really know what it meant. And so I studied mainly in the literature department because that made more sense to me. And also at the same time, as with every university in Japan, there's an exchange student center, which I was part of. So people usually go there to brush up their language skills, not just exchange students, but also international students, so students who are actual students there from different countries. So I took some language classes as well to make sure that I was not just having fun, I was also making sure I could study Japanese and get better as well. So I'm going to talk about some of the differences I found personally. So the first thing I found is the classes are 90 minutes long at Kobe University. And at Oxford, my classes start at 5 minutes past the hour and then 5 minutes beforehand, so 50 minutes. So it was really hard going to 90-minute classes because they would double the length. So after 50 minutes, my head just switched off. And it's really hard at 9 a.m. to listen to like Japanese classes when my head was switching off. But I got used to it in the end, and it was a really good experience because you learn more in the time. Also, I found there was a wider variety of classes that I could choose from. So in Oxford, when you do Japanese, it's kind of everything related to Japan. And I think in England, in other courses as well, if you do French, it's more so just about France and science. Oh, got excited. If you do science, it's all about science. But in Japan, you join a faculty. And once you join a faculty, you can do many other different things. So I did economics classes, social study classes, history, literature, lots of different things. So there's a real good variety to choose from. And also, one thing which is really different, I think, is attendance. And as we just said, lots of people in Japanese classes fall asleep in university, which is, I think, really different, because I walked into class one day and everyone was asleep. And even the front row, it wasn't even sneaky sleeping. And I was like, the teacher's right there. It was really bad. But the attendance is worth like 30, maybe sometimes 40% of your grade. So lots of people go to class and just sleep, get the attendance and leave. Well, I don't know, it's a different way to do it. So lots of people, I think, don't understand that when they go to Japan, but you have to attend your classes. And also the class demographic was really interesting. If you go, maybe if you're a Japanese student coming to England, you'd come and there'd be European people, American people, lots of other Asian students. When I went to Japan, lots of my classes, just me in the corner, standing out, looking very quiet and not sleepy. And it was a really good challenge. It was quite fun, because everyone was like, can he speak Japanese? Does he understand? And they were like, hello, how are you? I was like, oh, hello, and it was very weird. But it was quite fun. It was a good challenge to have. Okay, now some of the extracurricular activities differences. That's long to say. There are many more societies I found. So in Oxford, so for example, I play tennis. So you'd have your college tennis team and then your university tennis team, so just two. But I found that, as just said, there's many circles of like different levels and strictness. So there were some circles which really, they just go drinking. It's not really a society. Well, it's a drinking society. But then there's ones which have practice every day and almost like the club, but not as strict as the club, because the club's like a total different level. So you can find one which suits you and your level and like kind of what activities you wish to do. So if you want to go to one where they have more socials, where you can speak Japanese with people, it's a great opportunity. And if you actually want to do a sport or go to like Harry Potter Society or something, you can go to that as well. There's also lots of circles that support exchange students. So at Kobe University, there was one circle called Trust and one called ESS. And they both support exchange students. So I'd have the Trust Welcome Party, the ESS Welcome Party. So you could go there, and there's lots of Japanese people who want to make foreign friends, or maybe want to speak English, but it's just very welcoming. And it's a very easy chance to make friends without having to put too much effort in if you don't want to, or if you're nervous. And yeah, as I said, there's lots of events, so they take you on excursions, like Japanese events, like maybe to a firework display or something like that, and competitions or speech competitions, etc. And it's all through these societies, which really do help you. And if you're ever in trouble, you can ask them for help, and they'll be very willing to help you. Okay. Life outside of university, here we go. On the left is me attempting to sing, and on the right is my friend laughing because of my bad attempt. But I really enjoyed karaoke because I do like singing, although not good at it, that doesn't really matter. And it's lots of people do it, and it's a really good way to make friends as well. So if you go for like dinner with some friends, or maybe for a drink, and afterwards people are like, oh, let's go karaoke, oh my God, let's go. So you go karaoke, and then you bang out Britney Spears, and everyone loves you. Some people don't know that song though, like Hit Me Baby One More Time, it's really embarrassing. And it's really good to practice your Japanese, and it's also good to like sing in Japanese. It's another way to practice your language ability as well, and kind of become part of the culture, because everyone knows they have these special songs, like the #1 song they hit, and you can bring out yours like, yes, I can sing Me and Mrs. Jones. That's amazing. Okay, part-time jobs. So I had 2 part-time jobs in Japan. So one, on the right, I was an English teacher, which is very laid back, and I was just teaching conversational English and earning lots of money. And then on the left, I was working in an izakaya, so like a Japanese kind of pub bar, which is totally different. Because as we were saying just now, like there's the whole hierarchy, and it was made very clear that I was the bottom. Like, you are the worker, you work for very cheap money. And the main guy was really scary. And they'd like ask me sometimes in Japanese, like, get me that special type of prawn. And I didn't know what that, like a ruby prawn is, I don't know. Like, I had to guess and just pick out some random fish. Like, is this the right one, sir? No. Oh, God. I'm not getting paid today. So it was a really good experience, though, because it was good to see that side of like Japanese like culture and work culture. And I had to speak polite Japanese to everyone because I was on the bottom of the hierarchy. It was really good. It was a really good experience. Also, I did hitchhiking as well, mainly because I didn't have much money. But yeah, me and my friends, I was in Kobe, so we went all the way in one big circle to Shikoku, which is the island below, and around in 3 days. And we went lots and lots of places, and it was really fun. We met some really random people. On our way back, and this is, I promise you a true story, a semi-professional arm wrestler who was a truck driver. So he was there like 3 a.m., he's driving us. I was like, right, how do I win arm wrestling? And he just telling me all this. It was like, it's not really a story people usually have, semi-pro arm wrestler friends. So met lots of good people. And it was really fun, like, to especially meet people from different prefectures, because there's different dialects as well. So that was also another thing which is really interesting, because in Shikoku, the dialect is very hard to understand. My Japanese friend couldn't understand sometime, and he asked me, and I was like, hey, I'm a foreigner. How am I going to know if you're native? This is a list of some of the places I went. So on the left-hand side, I was living in that area, so I went to all them. And then in the middle was towards the top, like Himeji, Hiroshima, Kagawa, Tokushima is where I went when I was hitchhiking. And I had friends in Tokyo and Saitama, Chiba. And I also went to Okinawa, which is an island quite far away, which is a very different part of Japan, which I recommend everyone should go to. And I got some pictures now, I think. Yeah, here we go. So on the left that's Nara. That's a really famous lake, great lake. And in the middle, this is Hyogo Prefecture. And this is the first time I went skiing in my life. And it's really like beautiful, like mountainside area. And on the right is the Sky Tree in Tokyo, which is really, really big. Okay, and this is also Okinawa. It's like beautiful beaches, although it was a bit cloudy. And when I went to the aquarium, which is one of the biggest aquariums in Japan / the world, I don't know.
It's the widest, isn't it?
The widest. Sorry, not biggest, widest. Got it wrong. Please don't sue me. Next, festivals. Festivals are really good. It's a good part of Japanese culture. That's me, by the way. Wearing yukata. I look really cool, right? And then they're always throughout the year, and there's quite a few in the summer as well. And also, like, there's karaoke displays, not karaoke, fireworks. What? Firework displays, not karaoke displays. I don't do that anymore. There was firework displays, which lots of people go to, and they're really fun as well. And it's good to walk around in yukata, because people are like, psst, there's a white guy in Japanese dress. What's going on? And I was walking around speaking Japanese, like, he speaks Japanese as well. What? And so many confused people stopped and looked at me like, what is going on? It was really fun. I did it just for that, really. But also the festivals are fun as well. Oh, fine, now looking back, the important part. So what was good about going on abroad Japan? So firstly, I think language ability. I found that, especially with me, the opportunity to speak every day is a great thing if you want to improve your language ability. And there will be times where you have to speak Japanese. There will be times where you go to a shop and the person does not speak English at all, and they will look at you, and they might understand yes or no, but it doesn't help you when you're trying to order. So you have to use your Japanese, which is a great opportunity. And also, I think making Japanese friends as well. So I had 5 Japanese guy friends who are my best friends I hung with all the time. So they teach me phrases and words which are kind of young, cool guys like me say. And so it's stuff you won't learn. We're laughing way too much. Won't learn in class. So it's really good to learn kind of natural Japanese. Also, different culture. So I found as well my year abroad. I didn't come back once at all. Well, I did now. But you learn a lot about your own culture, and you learn a lot about yourself, I think. And the longer you're out there, the more you realize, oh yeah, I don't do that. And oh yeah, I did do that in England. And I think it's like a learning process. And I also found the whole when in Rome, do as the Romans do approach is really fun, actually. So you can go there and live a whole new life for a year and see what values you like, what values you don't like. I don't really like that, or I like that. I'm going to take that, I'm going to improve myself, I'm going to use that. So it's really good in that sense as well. And there's something which I think that unless you go to Japan, you won't necessarily understand. You can read it in a book. So Japanese service in restaurants, it is of another level, which is just crazy. And I think once you go to Japan, you'll be like, oh my God, this service is, wow. It was amazing. There's those things which I think you have to go there and experience it to properly understand it. And as we said just now as well, lifelong friends. So because I went in my first year in the summer, and I went last year, that's a 4 years gap. So I was in the same prefecture, so I met friends in my first year who were also first years. And then when I came back, they were finalists or just getting jobs, and we still kept in contact, and we still met up all the time. And we're still good friends today, and we speak all the time on Facebook chat and stuff. So it is a great chance to make friends who you will be friends with forever. It's not just a 1 year, but bye-bye, I'm not going to see you again. You will make good friends. And also, I found as well, you meet people, not just Japanese people from all around the world. So on my course, there was 10 people. There was Polish people, Chinese, Thai, Korean, Turkish, and there was an English guy as well. And even the English guy, we just spoke Japanese on our year abroad, because he said, I'm speaking Japanese too. So I was like, okay. And but we keep in contact all the time. We speak Japanese as a common language. And they're really good friends, and I would consider them, one of my best friends, some of my best friends. So it's a really good chance to make such good contacts and people you will constantly know and always talk to. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Lawson. It was a great talk. And last but not least, we have Emma Brigg, who is a student at Cambridge University, and she studied at Doshisha University in the beautiful city of Kyoto. So please, Emma.
Hello, everybody. A lot of what I was going to say has already been covered by these guys, so that's fine. It's not really a surprise, but I will just skip over some things if necessary. So, yep, this is about me. As you've already been told, my name's Emma. I'm studying at Cambridge, and last year I went to Doshisha University in Kyoto for a year. My university, Cambridge, has a special kind of connection with Doshisha, with which all of our students, except the ones who are on the MEX program, go to Doshisha University. So that made life fairly easy in terms of actually choosing where I was going to go, because I went where I was told. So planning and preparation, packing essentials. So I say pack light-ish, but it's also okay to send surface mail. So what I did was I packed for summer and then kind of threw in all of the other stuff that you need for the whole year, like toiletries and stuff, and then sent some winter clothes, winter essentials, like my winter jacket. I didn't have one of those until about December, so it was quite cold. Toiletries. If you have a particular favourite brand, if you have something that you need that you're not sure if you're going to be able to get out in Japan. For example, I took quite a lot of frizz cream with me because they don't really have that over there. Similarly for the girls, stuff like makeup wipes and makeup. Sanitary deodorant is important. The deodorant over there lasts about 5 minutes. Plug socket converters, just stuff that you don't really want to forget because it's kind of inconvenient. Things you don't want to take are sheets, towels, stuff that you're going to be able to buy online for probably cheaper than the money would be to send it over there yourself. And stationery. Don't bother taking over all of your paper, your pens. You can get them in 100 yen shops. 100 yen shops are amazing things. First day of moving into my dorm, the 100 yen shop closest to my dorm was just absolutely full of all of the people buying all of the boxes, the cups, the plates, the everything they were going to need for their whole year. Things not to take, your hairdryer or electrical things which need a certain amount of power. The voltage in Japan, I think it is lower than it is in England. So if you do take a hairdryer, you plug it in and it just kind of puffs a little bit. It's not very effective. And practice speaking to people. A few phrases, just if there's anything that you know you're likely to be asked a lot. Why are you in Japan? How long are you here for? What university are you at? And the eternal question, why Japanese? You will be asked by everyone you meet why you are studying Japanese. So be able to say that fairly coherently. Things you might want to get when you arrive. I went everywhere on my bike. Admittedly, it depends where you are, but I think a bike is a really important thing to buy. I was actually really rubbish at using the underground system in Kyoto because I never went on it. I cycled everywhere. Used bike shops and flea markets are probably your best place to go for that, although no guaranteeing for quality. And a phone is, I got a phone. I think a phone is a really useful thing to have, especially if you're planning on getting a part-time job of some sort. I use mine a lot for, talking to my boss, arranging shifts. But I had other friends who got a phone, didn't get a job, and just never, ever used it. And they're quite expensive, especially for foreigners, because they're generally on short contracts. Internet-only SIM cards are available, as I put up here, Be Mobile. Again, quite difficult to set up. A bank account, it's just, it may or may not be necessary. I got my bank account with the post office bank. Turns out they don't let you transfer any money to or from abroad for the first 6 months, so I did not use it at all, because by the time I'd been there 6 months, I was out of the habit. I was just withdrawing money from my UK bank card using the international ATMs, which probably ended up costing me quite a lot of unnecessary ATM fees. Shinsei Bank, I think, is supposed to be a good one, so that's worth noting. And a job. My job, I worked in an international cafe bar. The boss was Japanese. No, he wasn't. He was half Japanese, half Brazilian. And then there was kind of another boss who was Japanese. And I walked in on my first day, and they just handed me a phone and said, "This customer doesn't speak Japanese. Translate for us." So it was a little scary. I had to speak polite Japanese to the customers. It was quite relaxed amongst the staff. A lot of them were also foreigners, so I didn't have to worry so much about the hierarchy there. But it was great for, getting forced into terrifying Japanese-speaking situations. But for that, you need to make sure you get your permission to do part-time work with your student visa, if that's the type of visa you have, which you can get at the airport. I was asked at the airport if I wanted this visa and said yes, and it was very easy. They just gave me a stamp. but other people didn't get it at that point and had to go through this very painful form-filling process. So keep that in mind if you do want to get your job. Oh, I missed an activity, which I put up there at the little bottom and forgot to read. So I didn't actually even enter a university club. I joined the Kyoto Salsa bar. I went every Friday, but a lot of weeknights they had events. It was pretty much all Japanese people. They were lovely, really inclusive, really friendly. I had never danced before and was just taught straight from the beginning by some really lovely people, really patient with people who were rubbish. I was with the Nichiban Center at Doshishu University, the Center for Japanese Language and Culture, it's a multi-level Japanese program. You do a placement test when you first arrive, and they decide from that which level you're going to be placed in. It's sometimes important to push for a higher level if you feel it's important. This may be the case in other universities. They tended to place people in levels where they already knew most of the material. So in first semester, I didn't push for a higher level and ended up spending my entire semester doing things which I already knew. Second semester, I asked to be moved up, and they said, oh, but you don't know some of the stuff in that level. And I said, that's kind of the point. I'd like to learn it. Classes are every weekday, almost, depending on which level you are. And again, 1.5 hours, quite difficult coming from similar to Lawson. I was 50-minute classes. And I had 2 back-to-back every day, which was quite intense because I just ended up with 3 hours of the same classroom, same teacher. It was hard work at first, and it was all foreigners, so no one was sleeping in class. So I couldn't get away with it either. There are other optional classes which are taught in English, so you can take some cultural classes, some international communication stuff, and if you're a high enough level, you can test into other departments' classes. I took a Korean class in second semester, which was great for meeting some Japanese friends, and really reassuring because I could actually understand the class most of the time. Circles and clubs and activities, there is a club for everything. I had friends doing all sorts of different things, Cambridge has a pretty wide selection of clubs, and there were things people were doing at Doshisha which I don't think existed in Cambridge. And they're generally pretty open, especially the international exchange societies. They always want you to come along. Sometimes they subsidise you for events, which does make you feel a bit like an exhibit, but they're so nice about it, and it's a really good way to speak English. Again, like Josie mentioned, I had a couple of friends who came up to me in the first few weeks and said, let's speak English, and I never heard them speak English again, because they were so shy about speaking English that we just spoke Japanese the whole time. They came to visit me a couple of weeks ago, and they were staying with my family, so they couldn't speak Japanese, and that was the first time I heard them speak more than 2 sentences of English. Traveling, yes, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, because Japan is just an incredible place. There's so much there that you're not going to see anywhere else in the world. It's really worth making the most of the time whilst you can. So I went skiing with some friends from my salsa club. We drove out there together. We didn't go far away. I was in Kyoto, and we just went to kind of the next prefecture to anywhere vaguely mountainous. And it's fantastic. If anyone here likes skiing, snowboarding, whatever, it's fantastic in Japan. It's really, really nice. Ways to travel cheap. There's a Seishun 18 ticket, it's 5 days of unlimited travel on local trains, which is very, very slow, but it's a really cheap way of doing it. I had a very painful 12-hour train journey from very, very far west in Japan to very, very far east in Japan, and it was great. I chatted to some Japanese people, I read books, and I got where I was going for half the price. Well, far less than half the price. Peach Airlines, they're cheap flights. Couchsurfing is a website you can join, which is mostly okay. So you have to be careful, but it's basically involves staying on someone's spare couch. And I stayed with a couple of lovely Japanese people. I stayed with a family in Shikoku who took me to all of their local cultural events, which was great fun. And WOOFing, it sounds strange. It's an organisation which stands for Worldwide Organisation of Organic Farms, I think. I've seen about 3 different versions. But it's basically you go stay on a farm with a family for however long you like. I stayed for 3 weeks after my first year of university, but whilst there I met someone who'd been living there for 7 years. So yeah, you do what you like with it, and it's a great way to meet new people, speak lots of Japanese, because again, this particular family were half American, so spoke great English. But when I returned there in my year abroad this year, I spoke a lot more Japanese. It was really nice, and yeah, do the stupid tourist stuff. So this picture here is me in a Purikura booth, if anyone's heard of them. They're basically these incredible photo booths which make your eyes huge and Photoshop you to death. But it's hilarious. I mean, you don't want to take these things seriously, but they're really good fun. It's a really good activity to do with your friends, and they print out these little memories. And I have a wall above my desk in my room at uni with just these amusing photos on. They're great fun. So yeah, this is just mostly a selection of photos that I've put up from some of my travels around Japan. I've got Biwako, which is a lake near me. Look for the cool stuff that's close to you because it's easier to travel to. Kyoto is a great place for this because you've got all of the temples and kind of other amazing cultural sites in the near area. The second picture is an anime convention I went to, despite knowing very little about anime. And this was a bizarre kind of bobblehead performance on stage with dancing and singing. Buddha Santa, Osaka Castle. This is my friend Waka. Again, friends you meet in Japan will be so much fun and they'll stick around for ages. This was a comedy sketch my friend did where he was taking the mick out of Japanese tattoos. So you see people with their funny kanji tattoos, and he saw one once that said fridge. So he writes fridge on his stomach in permanent marker for his comedy shows. And yeah, everywhere has these festivals and special events. So this picture in the top right is Kiyomizu-dera in Kyoto, which had a special light up for its autumn leaves and is incredibly beautiful. They also have one in summer for the sakura and in winter for the snow. So you're sensing a theme. Just, yeah, exploring the local area, hanging out with your friends. This was my Christmas dinner in the top left. It's not very Christmassy, but it's really fun. Japan does Christmas in a very strange way where they do all the lights and the sparkles, but it's kind of like Valentine's Day. Yeah. Other pictures, what have we got? The bottom left is an event in Tokushima, the local dance, cycle ride with my friends, and another festival with some geisha. And yeah, more pretty things. Again, with the stupid touristy stuff, the one in the middle on the top, that's me dressed up as a Maiko, an apprentice geisha. And there are special shops which do these things, and like Lawson said, with dressing up in yukata, you wander around and people go, oh, look, a foreigner. Oh, look, she's dressed like a Maiko. Oh, that's great. She's so cute. She's so pretty. And then they ask to take a picture with you. And then another person asks to take a picture with you. And it's great. It's really fun. You get to talk to lots of people, and it's really friendly. And if you can tie, not so much this, because this is just ridiculously complicated, but if you can tie your kata or your obi yourself, people get really excited and want to talk to you about how you can do that. And that's all I have for you. I hope it's been at least vaguely informative. Thank you very much for listening.
So thank you very much, Emma, for a great talk. I'm afraid we only have a short Q&A session. So are there any questions on the floor? I would like to... Oh, yes, please.
Lawson, what's studying Japanology like?
Hello, sorry, just checking. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm laughing already. It's like everything you learn is going to be about Japan, and there's a balance between learning like the literature side and humanities side, and then also you have to learn the language as well at the same time. So it's quite a juggling act, but you do get used to it straight away. And it's really interesting. I found that before starting studying at Oxford, I didn't really know much about Japanese history or Japanese society or economics. And then once you start learning it, you kind of get immersed in it straight away, because it's like everyday lectures, everyday Japanese classes, and you get used to it really quickly. And I came to like it a lot. It was really fun.
Any further questions? Well, maybe I can just ask our lovely alumni members to provide some final remarks for the audience. So just a few short words about what it means to study in Japan, and yeah.
I would just say do as much as you can speak as much as you can, and don't be too constrained by what you feel you should do. Just do what you feel is going to be fun, and really, really try and improve your Japanese and take every opportunity you have to speak to new people and try new things.
I would say, along the similar lines, make sure you have a really good year and have a really good time, but also try and do as much things that you can't do in England, and have a balance between studying and also having fun as well. Because having fun can also be study as well if you're speaking Japanese. It's basically study.
I'd just like to reiterate your point about if you are going into classes to study Japanese, push to get into the highest possible class that you can. And especially if there's any Belgian students, try and get in the class with the Belgian and the Korean students, because they're always really good. So because if you study at a low level, you're never going to stretch yourself. So try and get into the really difficult classes. And then the same, just talk to everybody and eat everything.
Talk to everyone.
Okay, so thank you very much. So let's give the three contestants one more round of applause.